Hi, Terry.
Hi, Amy.
Sorry, I was multitasking, so
No problem. We all do as much as we can, right?
yes, I was like, I have 2 more minutes. Like,
Yeah. What can I get done in 2 minutes? How many emails can I send in 2 minutes?
correct, correct.
Yeah, I just sent a quick one also right before I got on. I looked at the clock. Okay, I can get that one in.
There we go.
Hi, Carol.
Hi. Oh, they have my D after my name.
Is that
That's
first?
it is political affiliation, but it also means delegate to the INC. So, well, I'm glad you're with us, Terry. That's a good thing.
Yeah, thanks, Carol.
Let's see. We're gonna wait 1 minute and then we're gonna start. And we all know, and we'll if other folks join, we'll need to mention the recording.
I think it prompts you when you log in that it tells you.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
They should
Okay,
all get the like prompt.
got it.
Yes.
Great. Good. Then I don't have to say anything. Hi, Sarah. Is she just here in spirit?
We haven't heard her yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So Amy, did you have any second thoughts about what I suggested just in terms of the order in which we do this?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay, good.
Do you want to wait like another minute or
I'll
so
wait
just to see if
1 minute, but I'm a teacher and we don't wait. So we just move in and
that's fine with me?
okay, good. And we have one more person. Hello, Jeff Dawson. Okay, we're gonna get started. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is the Central Park United Neighbors bi-monthly Safe Streets Committee meeting. My name's Carol Hunter, and I am on the board of directors, and I am the co-chair of Safe Streets Committee. And hi, Jeff.
So, sorry, I had to press another button to get myself unmuted and turn my video on. But
And well, you're very, very welcome. We're glad you're here. And Amy Campbell is co-chair of Safe Streets Committee as well. We keep trying to get her on the board, but she politely resists, and that's fine because she just does great work with the Safe Streets Committee. So that's who we are. And Central Park United Neighbors is an RNO, a registered neighborhood organization, of which there are, I've got to get the count right one of these days, but I know it's at least 150 neighborhood organizations that have varying degrees of involvement with as an RNO, and we are under an umbrella organization, which is the Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation. And RNOs have been a fact of life, apparently, in Denver since 1975. So we've been around for a little while. Hi, Heather. Nice to have you with us. So that's who we are. And there is a board of directors for the INC, which oversees all of the RNOs. And they have a transportation committee. That's what they call it, is transportation committee, that meets bi-monthly. And they met in May. Amy, I know, contacted their chair. And I just contacted him again today to find out when the video will be available for May. They had their meeting. It's always, no, yeah, it's on a Thursday, on May 9th. And so we're waiting for that. And I want to let people know on this call, and we'll be sure to emphasize that in our newsletter, that they do a lot of really valuable stuff just in terms of getting information out. So the Transportation Committee for the INC, and then the INC has been doing a lot around street safety and just sidewalks and just a ton of stuff. And so we want to get those videos to you. So we will do that as soon as we have access as well. The Safe Streets Committee really became I don't know what its history was in terms of 10 or 15 years ago, but it really, when I began with it, was about the safety of people who aren't in cars. But it's become about safety in cars lately. as we all know, if you're on Facebook, you know this, especially at MLK and Central Park. So it is about safety, but we are really, really working hard to make this a much more friendly place, in our neighborhood, certainly, and in Denver, in terms of people who want to bike and people who want to walk, and scooters and strollers and wheelchairs and all the great things that you can do when you're outside and not in a car. So that's really what our purpose is. So I mentioned the delegate. The INC does a delegate meeting every month, and it's on a Saturday. I think it's the second Saturday of each month. And we want to get those, and we'll put them in the newsletter that we put out every 2 weeks when we get them, when we have access, because they're really valuable in terms of information and getting to know the bigger city and what the issues are. What
I
I
put,
like,
sorry, Carol, I put in the
oh, right
chat,
ahead.
I put in the chat a link to the YouTube page of the INC. So you
Good.
can find some of their previous videos there,
Yes. And
if you're interested.
when I was inquiring again about the availability of the most recent videos, Maggie Price, I communicate with her, and she said, she talked about the library, and that's really valuable. So thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate it. Um, so what we're going to do today is, we had a meeting yesterday with Maggie Thompson from Dottie, and we're doing that now on a quarterly basis. So we met with her yesterday afternoon, and we're going to report out about that. But I thought it would be a good idea for me to share with you and for anybody who watches this video in terms of framing what we report to you, whether it's today, in the past, or in the future. The things that we need to think about when we're trying to get our problem solved and we're trying to collaborate with one another, that sort of thing. And Maggie is a community designer for Dottie, the Department of Infrastructure. What is it? Transportation and Infrastructure. And so I just want to.
I was like, Carol, do you want to do quick intros of everyone
Oh
before we
yeah,
jump in?
we have some folks who haven't been here before. So yes. So you know that Amy and I are co-chairs of the committee, and why don't we go ahead and start with, let's start with our newest board member, Heather. Why don't you introduce yourself, Heather?
Hi, I'm Heather Tabano, a new board member at CPUN. So this is my first meeting coming to the Safe Streets Committee, but I appreciated the intro, Carol. And yeah, I'll be interested to hear kind of about your recent conversation with Maggie. I remember when she was on the recent CPUN call, but I know she kind of got a short time. So love to have lots of her time.
Right. Terry?
Hi, I'm Terry Cook. I've participated in the last couple of meetings remotely, the CPUN general meetings. And I have a strong interest in, well, a lot of things, transportation. But the main thing I'm focused on right now is to understand the city's processes and studies regarding the Central Park traffic in the Central Park corridor. With all the building that is going on and all the building that's planned, I'm concerned, and I think many people are concerned. Can this corridor support the additional number of vehicles? And it's very crowded already. So I want to understand. Denver has its policies and procedures, and I want to make sure that they're good ones, and they're doing the right studies and communicating that information to the residents to make sure that this stays a good neighborhood that you can actually travel through. Because I'm getting concerned about that. And I've been pursuing this with our councilwoman and Dottie and another person that I can't remember her name, Amy something at Denver, but I can provide more information on that later. But yeah, Terry Cook, long introduction, sorry. That's who I am and my interest.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, so first time being at Safe Streets meeting and really almost any CPUN related activities. I've worked for CDOT for about 24 years. Not necessarily in the traffic and safety branch, but I have a lot of of experience and all kinds of things related to traffic and that about. I was actually the project engineer on the I-70 in Central Park interchange construction back in the day. I'm currently actually the engineering manager for passenger rail. So a lot of my most recent experience hasn't been with roadway network and car traffic necessarily, but transit is important for making our streets safer as well. So that's good.
Thank you. Glad to have you. Sarah.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Sarah McGregor. I live in Eastbridge here in Central Park. I've been a bicycle commuter for way more years than you want to know about. And I'm real familiar with RTD routes too, because I've tried to love RTD through the years. I really have. It's tough. They make it hard. Anyway, I'm very concerned about safety for people who are not in cars. And we know that there's been a huge increase in deaths and injuries to cyclists and pedestrians in the last few years. So that's a big, big issue for me. And I don't feel like Central Park has gotten the kinds of traffic calming and so on that we really need. Yes, we have a protected bike lane or two, but we need more. So that's me.
Thanks, Sarah. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Williams. Wait, what happened? Second. Okay. I live on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, just between by Spruce. And I'm interested in checking this committee out because I mean the cars just are so fast driving down Martin Luther King. It's absolutely crazy and loud. And that's my big concern right there is just safety. And also I've been wanting to contact our city council person too, because I don't know if you've ever noticed, but like Fred Thomas Park is so dark. Like there's not an adequate amount of light there in the evenings. It's very dark, and I think that the city should put more lighting in there. It would be safer.
Thanks for bringing that up. Anything else you
Yeah.
want to add, Jennifer?
No, I'm good right now. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just making a note to myself. So what we've done the introductions, and I've let you know about just a very brief description about RNOs and the INC. But I just want to reiterate that it's a really good idea to be tapped into both because we can help one another, we can collaborate, we can get ideas from one another, we can learn, and that's what we need to do. So what I wanted to do after that was just to frame this, because after we spoke with Maggie yesterday, there were just things that kept coming back to me about what I didn't understand, what I need to understand, and especially when I'm trying to make change, when I'm trying to contact someone from Dottie, when I'm trying to contact, somebody in the council person's office. And I do want to mention that our council person is very accessible. And that is very much appreciated. And I don't know whether you get her newsletters, but she communicates weekly. She does a monthly. In fact, I'm going to go see her at Itai's on Saturday morning, and she does these 15-minute one-on-one meetings with people. She does community meetings, so it is really easy to get access to her and to be heard. And I think we all need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, Carol, thanks for sending me that information also. I have a scheduled appointment also with her that morning.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll see you on 20 minutes.
Mine's at 11 o'clock, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm 10:45. We'll see
Okay.
you face to face.
I
Good.
believe she also has virtual options for people who can't come in person.
She's made her, thanks, Amy. She's made herself very accessible, and I appreciate that. So what I started to think about yesterday after we were getting all this information from her and asking her questions and back and forth is that I wanted us to be thinking about this. So I just made this list that it would be a good idea for us to know about various city departments, how they interact. For example, I don't know what community planning and development does, and I need to know that. It was brought up several times yesterday. And you know how we all love to use acronyms. So that gets thrown around, and I want to make sure I know what those acronyms need. And then it came up, the police department, DPT came up. And so they're part of our collaborative communication as well with traffic, with the obvious traffic things, but also sometimes with signage. So knowing what certain departments do and then tapping into a contact person or two is very, very helpful. We need to know, this was really important yesterday, and I think Amy will agree, about the current hiring situation. Dottie is down 5 engineers, I think. They have only 3 right now. So there is this hiring issue going on, and it doesn't look as though they're going to be up to capacity for at least 5 or 6 months. So when we think about trying to get things done and communicating with people, that's another thing to, to keep in mind that is timely right now. We need to know, we need to be concerned about, and we need to know about budgets. That comes up again and again because the things that we want cost a lot of money. So not so much some things, but some other things do. We also need to know about current priorities in every district. We're only one of many. And so we need to know what's happening in other districts, in other neighborhoods, in terms of how the money is being doled out. We need to know about the current thinking around design. I recently received one of the, it was case closed. If you've ever contacted 311 and you say what you say and you get back a reply. And I said something about speed bumps, and there was this adamant, we don't do speed bumps in Denver. Well, that's not true. There's a test program or whatever in 3 different neighborhoods that we found out about yesterday for speed bumps or humps or whatever you're going to call them. There's different names for that. We need to know about, and I'd heard this before, who has sway when it comes to designing streets. The fire department had a big say in how Central Park was developed. I live on Uinta and 49th Place. Uinta from Northfield to 56th is like 17 bowling alleys wide. And that was, the fire department had a lot to say about that in terms of design. So that's another thing we need to know. We need to know about developer decisions, and that's a whole other thing going on, and you know that. We had, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, from Brookfield speak in March, and then she did an update in May.
Kelly Pretzer.
Kelly Pretzer, yes. And so that's another person to, we have some names, and we need to know what's up with developers, because that is a huge issue in Central Park. It's a huge issue anywhere. I moved here from San Diego, and oh my God.
Hey, Carol, Jeff has a
yeah.
question. Jeff has a
Sure.
question.
Sorry.
Well, you said developers, and I got excited because that's actually one of the reasons I want to get more involved in planning and the transportation network around here. I live right by where RK Mechanical is set to be redeveloped.
Yeah.
So I mentioned, I don't think Brookside necessarily has anything to do with that.
Brookfield?
Yeah. Okay. But
Jeff, will you hold on to that?
To see what was it. Yeah.
I'm almost done, and then Amy's going to report back about a number of things, and then we want to open it up to y'all in terms of your questions, your concerns, or the next steps that we need to be taking. And we absolutely have to know protocols, in terms of how do you submit a question? How do you submit a concern? Who do you talk to? That sort of thing. And how is business done? And so that's huge. And then what kind of actions are we going to be taking? And how are we going to organize ourselves? How are we going to communicate with one another? How are we going to communicate with city officials? And then and Amy, I don't know whether you had this on your list, but one of the things, Sarah, you'll appreciate this. It's a big fat no, pretty much, to citizens financing projects. So, you may have big pockets. The neighborhood may have, some people may have big pockets, but no, that's financing, a speed bump or financing a traffic circle is apparently not, we don't do it. So the city doesn't do it. So that's my list. And I will type those things up for people and share them with you. And Amy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, one thing I was gonna say, I just put in the chat the link to the CPUN May community meeting, which I don't know, Jeff, if you were there. I listened to it after the fact and it has some relevant information about that RK plot, so we can come back to that, but there's the link there. And then what I wanted to share out was I've been sitting on the District 8 office's community panel on transportation that they started. I think it started in January-ish, February. They have 3 community panels. One is transportation, one is some sort of climate related one. There are 3. I can't remember the 3 right now. I can look it up. But we've been meeting regularly and trying to figure out, give input into the budget priorities that the District 8 office is taking back to City Council and the mayor for the current budget development season. And so I just wanted to report out the 3 micro priorities that the District 8 office has proposed for the budget. I don't know that they're necessarily going to be adopted. I can't remember the details of like, if you propose a micro priority, it's necessarily going to be in the budget or not. They're all relatively small dollar and below a dollar amount that has to have full city council approval. So they don't need the same approval mechanisms. Let's see. I can drop them in the chat and then I can try to briefly like say what they are. Oh, it's too long. Okay, hang on. Let me do them one at a time. Okay. The first one is they're asking for $100,000 for DOTI, the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, to install bollards. So those are like the kind of flex post type things at the end of streets in District 8 to help with visibility. So it's basically daylighting. I don't know if you've heard that term. So it'll prevent, cars from parking right up to the intersection. So it should improve visibility at certain intersections. And they're choosing the intersections based on where the high injury network is. And so giving priority to places where it's known to be a problem. And there have been like serious accidents that have occurred there already. So that's one priority. And again, these are relatively small dollar things. The second micro priority is $250,000 also to DOTI. Again, all of this is like transportation related. So it's all infrastructure, it's all DOTI. That's to investigate traffic conditions near all the schools in District 8. That includes public and charter and daycares. So any kind of, not just K through 8 is what I understand. And so they're focused on crosswalks. They want to install crosswalks where they're missing or move them if they're at a place where the students currently don't use them. Like say it's a suboptimal location, they want to move it to where the users are actually using the crossing. And they have some language about it needs to have relevant signage and high contrast striping. And then what they do with any money that's left over. So some of that money will go towards the study that needs to be done of each school, and then the rest will go to the actual implementation of crosswalks. So personally, I really like that priority because it touches like everyone in the District 8, or many people, and like all the schools, which is good, I like. And the final one is $100,000 for bike lockers, and they're wanting to install them in front of like community areas like police departments, fire stations, and other like secure public buildings. So like maybe a rec center or trying to think of other, basically like city-owned spaces. So that's the other one, to try to have them be places that are well lit, well like watched, and have cameras. So to provide like secure bike storage for people that might need that either during the day or overnight. And there's some language about, you know, if there are no qualifying public buildings, then they might use the money in a different way. And that's more relevant to East Colfax, which has no rec center, police department, or fire station. They'd have no community owned spaces. So that's like separate. We could have a conversation about that, but that's not Central Park. So those are the three micro priorities. And then there were also larger budget priorities that were discussed. And I think, I don't know the details of all of that, but some of Councilwoman Lewis's like May policy update email might have that in there, which I haven't been able to read yet. But yeah, lots of focus from District 8 office about transportation safety and climate and how those things interface. Yeah, if anyone has questions, I'll stop talking.
No questions, but sounds like all really good, good initiatives that should help with good results also. When you,
Yeah.
the first one, we install bollards at the end of city streets. So could you describe again, particularly where that would be on a street in particular? Not a particular street, but on a street architecture.
Yeah, it seems like, let's see. Let me look at the chat again, what it actually says. Okay, let me go back to my email that I had with Jesse, because I had questions about details about this too. Let's see. He said the bollards could be either on an arterial street or a collector street. So those are types of street names, like street classifications. And let's see, the bollards would probably be on the city street, not the high injury network road. So if you're thinking about what's a high injury network road, Quebec, for example, I don't know that there'd be a bollard situation there, but they wouldn't be on Quebec themselves, but they might be on the road that's intersecting Quebec. So then you wouldn't be able to park right up against the intersection on that smaller road, and then you'd have more visibility as you're turning onto like the high injury network road. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, that's what I was envisioning. I wasn't sure though.
Yes, and I believe the $100,000 would only pay for 6 or 7 of these intersection treatments. So to give some context, it's not going to be widespread. So yes.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for sharing these, Amy. I'm on the climate panel, which is one of the other panels for District 8. And I really like the second priority that the group came up with, the $250,000 for Dottie. Looking at all the schools in District 8, that was a huge priority for me that I've reached out to numerous contacts in the city about doing a study at my school here, because the crosswalk situation is very dangerous. So I really hope this one gets funded. That would be great. So thanks for all your work on that.
Thank you for being on the climate, transportation, and then maybe safety through environmental design.
Yeah, safety through environmental design.
Yeah, those are the 3 groups. That's my main update. I wanted to report back about that.
Okay.
And my takeaway from the experience, I guess, is like, which is still ongoing. I guess we're still doing panel meetings, but maybe not till June. Is that I feel like they're very open to listening to what people have to say and trying to take that community feedback. And what I would have loved to see is like more people from the community participating. So we had like a broader range of voices, you know, that were represented in at least in our transportation panel. So if anyone's interested, you know, keep an eye out, or I don't know if we're allowed to recruit new members, but let me know if you're interested.
And describe that panel. That panel is is representative of this district? It's a panel that represents this district or is interested in this district.
Yes, it would be District 8, through Councilwoman Lewis's office. So I'm guessing they want District 8 residents or maybe people who may have a business in District 8 or an interest in District 8. And if you live in Central Park, you're in that district.
And you have regular meetings, monthly meetings or whatnot?
Yeah, they've been somewhat regular through this budget season, and I think they might become a little more intermittent as, you know, the micro priorities for this year have been decided, and it's more thinking about big picture, longer term projects that would, you know, not be happening immediately, and sort of what would the District 8 office want to be pushing for, like a bigger picture kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Okay.
You want to move on to Maggie?
Sure, unless someone has any other questions or comments. Okay, go for it, Carol. Do you want me to move on to Maggie?
You're going for it.
Well, I was like, what am I supposed to report? Let me see.
Well, what our conversation yesterday with Maggie in terms of what stood out to you, like she was giving us a list of lots of signal projects coming up. 17th in Quebec, new signals over the summer. She talked about a bridge project on Smith and somewhere in terms of bridges or a bridge and multi-use road. What I was getting was a lot of signal replacements and adjustments, and then the recurring Emporia issue, which they had done a second study, Sarah, and they're not going to do anything. That's the bottom line in terms of how I interpreted it. I don't know how you interpreted that, Amy.
I put my minutes from that meeting in the chat, and I believe anyone who clicks the link should be able to view them.
Oh,
Let me
good.
know. Okay, cool.
Good.
So you can all read that at your leisure.
Right.
One thing that she said is that the new Dottie executive director, her name is Amy Ford. I think, Terry, that's who you were talking about before. Definitely seems very much in line with trying to push hard on making policy changes that would be very safe streets or Vision Zero focused. And so one of those is that now every time Dottie touches or like repairs or replaces a traffic signal, they're changing the crosswalk timing so that you get a leading pedestrian interval. So the pedestrians get to start crossing first before the light for the cars turns green. And that's going to be a uniform policy standard across the board. And she said, so to give some context about how long it might take for all of the signals in Denver to be updated. All of the signals are on a 5-year maintenance cycle, we learned. So within 5 years, every current signal that's capable of having a leading pedestrian interval will have one. Because within 5 years, they'll all be touched at some point, right, for maintenance. But any signal that doesn't have the capability to have that LPI, it might be more years than 5. So like the old signals that have the like wires still. So there's some in East Colfax for sure, like 13th and Syracuse maybe, like around those. They might not have this leading pedestrian interval feature for a long time. So, you know, progress, but still not enough progress, especially for neighborhoods that have older infrastructure.
Right.
Probably all the signals in Central Park, I'm guessing, have the capacity to be switched to an LPI like the next time Dottie is able to. And that's, you know, there's data to support that increases safety for the people who are crossing the street.
Yes.
Awesome. And she said to use 311 or Online Services Hub if you notice a signal that doesn't have an LPI yet, but you think should. So she said, put a request in so it like gets on their radar sooner. So if you're crossing the street and you're like, oh, I wish this was different, like put a 311 comment in. She talked about the Quebec sidewalk project is kicking off. And so there'll be some traffic disruptions in the like short term, but in the long term, there'll be new sidewalks from 12th to Montview, including a new traffic signal at 17th and Quebec, which is right by the Mosaic campus where there are several schools. And that should also improve safety in that area. And then, as Carol said, there's some larger projects around Quebec and I-70, which you can read about, and I put some links in the meeting minutes also. Because apparently the bridge, the Quebec bridge in that area is like one of the worst in Denver, like in terms of quality, like, and it's high on the list of needing to be replaced. So they're going to do some sidewalk improvements and bike pedestrian access improvements as part of that bigger kind of effort. Let's see, I'm going through, you all can read this, but as Carol mentioned, they're like short-staffed basically. And she said, Maggie said they're 5 months behind answering 311 traffic inquiry requests. Yes, not great. They're not proud of this fact, but that's the reality. And all of the inquiries are handled on a first come, first served basis. So you're just in a queue and they're working through the queue.
Right.
So
Thanks for mentioning that, Amy, because that's part
Yeah.
of protocol process that we all need to understand, and I need to get smarter about that kind of
So,
thing as
yeah,
well.
so if you've submitted something and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard back, it's been several months, like they probably just haven't gotten to it yet. And that is the reality right now. And then I think everything else is pretty minor unless we want to transition into talking about development and developers, but maybe that can be part of the like open conversation.
And just again to the Emporia, that another study was done and they've said that the average speed was 24 miles per hour. I don't know, and that's another minutia, I guess, thing that would be important to know. I don't know for how, how long they do things, how long the study lasts, and exactly what that involves, and how they come up with the data that they come up with. I want to acknowledge that Andrew's here. Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Andrew Bartlett. I live on Emporia Street. I'm also a member of the MCA. In fact, I'm the president of the MCA, and I'm also a board member on the Park Creek Metro District.
So there you have it. So
And here
those are a few of the things that we talked about, and we, Amy and I always collaborate, and we'll put it together and do a summary that we'll send out to our list of people, and including you. So if we can make, unless you have some specific questions about what we just talked about, we can shift in terms of your concerns, your questions, things that we need to carry forth. As I said, we're meeting with Maggie monthly. We won't meet again until October.
You mean quarterly?
I mean quarterly, excuse me. So it won't be until October. So it's your game right now, how you'd like to proceed.
When you say your game, all of us?
Yeah, what
Yeah.
questions do you have? And I know that you raise your hand and be polite or what have you, but what are your concerns and what do you want to talk about now?
I'll raise my hand, my real hand, not even my virtual Zoom hand.
Okay.
And I'll be brief, but first of all, I mentioned the Central Park corridor and traffic and development. I'm also an avid cyclist, and I concur with everybody else's concerns about pedestrian safety, cyclist safety, and all that. I will say that my wife and I, we spend our winters in Florida and summers and falls in Denver, and when I talk to my fellow cyclists in Florida, I say, man, Denver has it so good out there with all the trails that we have. And I mean, so we, although there are parts of our, especially older neighborhoods that do not have a lot of the trails that Central Park and other more outlying areas have, we do have some really, really good infrastructure for cyclists. And pedestrians and bicycle or baby walking and all that kind of stuff. So Florida is one of the highest, maybe the highest in the nation as far as pedestrian fatalities and accidents. And I think Lee County, the county I live in, is maybe one of the highest also in the state of Florida. So that being said, we have a lot of work to do here in Denver. It can be a lot better, always can. But know that we also have some really good infrastructure that we really should take advantage of. Anyhow, so it got me going when we had the meeting. I don't know if it was March or what it was, and they've been talking about that partial 8, if I remember what it's called. It's by the right off the 75 in Central Park Boulevard, where the credit union is now. And the developer gave the presentation. I asked the question, okay, have you done a traffic study? And what are the results of that traffic study? That's one way in and one way out. They're talking about putting a grocery store there also. And that got me thinking about all the other developments that have gone in recently or are being built or are being planned. And does Central Park, the whole corridor, was it designed for this many residents, this many trips? They do that all the time, traffic studies. People do that all the time. It's a professional thing. You know how many residents are going to be there, how many housing units, and you estimate how many trips to the grocery store, blah, blah, blah. Most of us know all that. So that's what I'm pursuing. That's what I'm actively pursuing. I did send an email or a message to Amy Ford. I have not heard back from her office or anybody else. Interestingly, I couldn't submit that through the website, the Denver website, because her department doesn't have an online submittal. So I did submit it. I sent it through snail mail. That was weird, sending a letter through snail mail to the government. But I did submit it through the community development portal, because they did have a submittal. I got a response back from them. That was 4 weeks ago today, and I haven't heard back, but I'm pursuing that. I sent it to our councilwoman also. Have not heard back from her office, but again, I'm meeting with her on Saturday. So it's just kind of the initial early stages of this. I welcome other people also. I haven't really gone public. I haven't posted anything on Facebook or any of those things, because I just wanted to start doing this initial investigation on what the process is and what they do. Maybe they have done the traffic, so I don't know. But I want to find out. I want to find out the information. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt until I find out differently. So
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. That's my interest right now, but I'm also interested in all the other initiatives that about pedestrians and cycling as well.
It looks like Jeff has a comment, and then I might have a comment about something Maggie talked to us about yesterday that relates to this. So, but Jeff, you go first.
Yeah, well, Terry, I just wanted to respond to you a little bit in terms of what I know. The interchange itself at I-70 was absolutely designed with a traffic study. That's a CDOT requirement. That was actually a City and County of Denver project, but being on a federal facility, CDOT had to oversee it. And you'll see, like, the bridge has huge wide shoulders, right? It didn't need those when it was built, but it's designed for another lane. Both northbound and southbound could be accommodated on the bridge itself. Now, obviously, CDOT doesn't have anything to do with Central Park not being a state highway outside the I-70 corridor. CDOT does, say, control the access within a certain number of feet of I-70. It's like 350 or something like that. But I guess I'm just responding to the kind of traffic study inquiries. The interchange was done with that, but I would also ask the question, with a traffic study, are you talking about in terms of laneage on that? Or because I would be against adding more lanes to Central Park and making it 6 instead of 4.
And I actually I think Maggie said something yesterday that like Denver probably would not do that just as a kind of a policy measure. They don't tend to expand roadways. So even if that was what you wanted, that probably wouldn't happen. So.
Yeah, and I guess, Jeff, imagine, and it's not this way, but imagine if Central Park Boulevard was one lane, and we had, obviously it would be well over capacity. And you know, you couldn't live in an area like that with all the housing, all the people that live in this area and all the commerce is done. So it's not one, it's two in most places, three in some places, that's great. But as you add more and more capacity, what's the maximum that a community can handle as far as numbers of trips and numbers of cars on the road, numbers of Amazon trucks on the road, et cetera. So there, you know, there's science behind that, there's math behind that, there's professionalism behind that, and I want to know that if Denver is doing that kind of, you know, because as the developer just keeps on putting up more and more units, is it approved that our streets can handle that much traffic? And that's what I'm interested in. So I'm not proposing that we widen any streets. Because, you know, the bridge that goes over the railroad and the stream and Sand Creek, I doubt if that can be widened, you know, so there are some pinch points that are probably there to stay, at least for many, many years.
And then there's one X factor that's going to be coming online as well, as the RK Mechanical location. That facility is a private property that was grandfathered into the community before the Master Community Association, the airport relationship, all of that other stuff. So it's basically just a large private property parcel. It is being sold, and they're going to be putting in an apartment building there, or an apartment complex, rather, estimated around 800 to 1,000 units. So that their two primary avenues to access will be Smith Road, and the TOD, the Transportation Center, right, coming up that way, and 37th, which currently is not a high capacity intersection by any stretch of the imagination. And that will all drain onto exactly where you're talking about, right? Or add to that traffic density. So both the area over by the credit union is being developed out, and RK Mechanical will be another source of kind of unmanaged. The reason I bring up that it was all grandfathered in is that the MCA and the Park Creek Metro District and the Westerly Creek Metro District have absolutely zero authority over them or influence. It's all being done privately.
I also was going to throw in the piece that I believe it's also just far enough away from the TOD that it doesn't meet this new state law that was like parking minimums kind of thing that they just signed into law at this last legislative session, which I think is only if you have to be a quarter mile away from a transit development, and then you can limit the number of parking spaces that are required.
Right.
But I believe the RK site is like half a mile or something from the TOD, so I bet it would be outside that. Because I was hoping it would be like, oh, we can push on the on that feature of it and try to limit, you know, the number of people who would be attracted to that, because you might attract people who aren't going to have their car and therefore wouldn't be contributing the congestion. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So
no.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Cry. I'm crying.
Yeah, that one is a development that kind of scares me. The one over by the credit union, I mean, they're talking about putting another access intersection or access point to it as part of the design. So it's not just, what is that, 42nd? 40th?
40th.
40th.
But I haven't seen anything in terms of how they want to pull that off. But the number of units in there is not nearly as dense. There's going to be a large park in there, or green space plaza type of area. And then, as you mentioned, another grocery store. So that'll occupy a lot of that area. So there will be potential traffic in there, but you know, the number of actual residents, parking, and 24/7 types of traffic sources won't be nearly as prominent. Whereas with RK Mechanical, if you throw 1,000 apartments in there on two little residential streets, yeah, you're gonna get some chaos.
One thing I was gonna say that I feel like is relevant to this kind of topic is understanding more about community planning and development. So it seems like the transportation, Dottie, the transportation infrastructure piece of it is sort of like partnered or like in the same sort of hierarchy on the, what's the, anyway, so Dottie's like here and then community planning and development, and they work with each other, but they each have their own unique things that they oversee. And so all of this zoning and like deciding if the road can handle a certain amount of capacity, I think is more of a community planning and development question. And it seems like from what I understand, when the city like designates a certain road as arterial or local or collector, it pairs with it some amount of capacity it can hold, right? Like it can handle. I don't know what those numbers are, but we can probably find them, and maybe that's something that research to do.
I just
And then
put that down as in a star next to it to follow up on that. And excuse me for interrupting, but we have about 10 minutes, and I know Heather put something in the chat, and I want to know if Jennifer and Sarah have anything before we have to end this at 4 o'clock.
Cool. I was just saying that what I learned is that if a developer comes to the city with a proposal and that plan has to go to Dottie at some point for review, and if the estimated numbers of vehicles, for example, do not exceed what the road is approved for, that is it. Dottie cannot try to prevent it from happening, no matter what, the community might want, is my understanding. So understanding what those parameters are, like, I don't know what they are for Central Park, what the numbers are and what we're at now and what the capacity is, but that's the kind of information I think you're looking for, Terry, and I don't know exactly how to find it, but I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, it does. And that's what I'm inquiring of people, to learn more and find out more. And if you guys can give me any other advice, please do so. I'm not real connected with the government and all these processes and all of it. Anyhow, I'll be quiet. Go ahead, Carol. The other people.
Heather, did you have a question or a comment, Heather?
It was just about what Andrew was talking about earlier with the development by the credit union, but he answered in the chat that the plans are still sort of preliminary, and so there's nothing really on the public domain yet about what's happening.
Yeah, we had a woman from Brookfield discuss that in very general terms a few months ago at one of the CPUN meetings, and that's what kind of got me going on this whole thing. But it was pretty general. They had some very specific or very general sketches of what they might do. But they were talking about at that point 700 units, but that may have changed since then.
Sounds about right.
Can you give me a brief idea where this credit union thing is? Situation?
When you like where it physically is?
Yeah, and
it's when you get off of I-70 going east, there's the big brand new office building at Central Park Boulevard. So basically the intersection of the southwest intersection of Central Park Boulevard and I-70.
Yeah.
So everything south of that going pretty much all the way down to Sand Creek. There's a weird leveling out there because the floodplain is right next to it and whatnot. And it will extend back. There's a mound that they call the Prairie Dog Mound. So that whole kind of area right there, there will be 700 homes. Most of those will be apartments. However, there will be some townhomes in there as well. A grocery store and some small retail in that area with a plaza, and I think like a 5-acre park type environment that's kind of yet to be designed as well. And those designs, I believe, are getting closer to finalized, and then it goes to the city, and then they have this review and iteration process. And the last communication I received was that we should see something in the next month or two, because it was kind of on the Park Creek and MCA meeting cycle that we were getting updates from Brookfield. about that. So they're close with what that design might look like, but they don't want to roll it out to the public too much, because if it, gets rejected by the city and they have totally different requirements, they don't want to set expectations in the wrong direction, which is why we haven't seen anything yet. But
Is
Okay.
that area going to go all the way kind of up to the back of the light rail station there?
it won't cross over the creek.
Okay, to the creek.
Yeah, it will go kind of up to where, do you know where that bike trail is that
Mhm.
goes through there? That's kind of a very informal sort of boundary line for it.
Gotcha.
I was also going to circle back before I forget, because Jennifer, you mentioned you live along MLK, which is like, yes, I live right near you, and I agree 100% about the speed. So I put some stuff in the chat about photo enforcement vans. I don't know if you've ever seen those out
Oh, yeah, I've
On-
seen them.
on MLK, closer to the rec center. They tend to put them.
Oh, no, I'm up like right by the fire station.
Yes, I know. Well, I was
block.
saying, I
Yes.
don't know. I think it should still fit their criteria, but you could try to
Mhm.
call and or email. Oh, it says email and ask them to do some photo radar enforcement, like over on your stretch of MLK, and see if they'll do it.
Okay,
Because
okay.
in my experience, when the van is out there, drivers definitely slow down. So it's
Yeah.
only sort of a temporary kind of help, but it's something you can ask for now.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, that's good to know.
yeah.
Thank you.
Can you guys see the what I'm displaying on my PC?
Yeah, this is great. This is more than I've seen.
This is it's a screen snapshot of when Brookfield presented back in February or whatever it was. So I can send this out if you guys want. But the I-70 would be wait a second.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
up
can-
here.
I can
Yeah.
also, that should, we can look at the video, and I can post that link in the next newsletter from that meeting when the presentation was done by Brookfield.
Okay.
If that's where you got it, I'm happy to do that.
Yes. Yes. I copied other one, and I
Oh,
included these
and
in
actually,
my letter.
it should be online. It should be online. Mark is very good. Our secretary is very good about posting the videos promptly after the meetings.
Yeah,
Right.
they're all online. I think the May
Yeah.
meeting has some of this, and I think the meeting before either March or April has more detailed information that you probably got this from.
Okay. And I wanted to, since you guys brought up the issue about or not the issue, but the opportunity about photo enforcement. It seems like I'm personally I'm against that, but because I'm more of a, but in Denver, I think we could really benefit from that. In more cases, I know there's a few of them around, and I think I asked a police officer once, "Hey, why don't we have more of those?" And he didn't really know, but I do think they help in intersections that where you have a lot of people running through red lights, and of course safety, pedestrian, everything. So I don't know if that's something that we can continue to request and bring up to our councilwoman and to police. But I don't like them, but in the right situation, I think they're appropriate.
Yeah, and I also
What do you not like about that?
What don't I like about it?
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just kind of big brother-ish government oversight. It can be taken too far, but that's why I say I don't like them. But hey, in appropriate situations, I think they could really make an intersection more safe.
Yeah, I understand you. Like, I figured that's what you're gonna kind of leaning towards, so
Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah.
Okay, we
Thank
have
you.
2 minutes left. So who would like to ask, share, comment?
Can I go circle back to RK? If anyone is okay with that topic. You were talking about a Denver law for parking minimums if you're in a quarter mile of the station.
let me see if I can find what the name is. Or Andrew, do you know?
I don't know.
That would be really interesting to see how they define within a quarter mile, because just drawing a line on Google Earth and measuring it, it's a tenth of a mile from the furthest east parking space around the station to the northern entrance to that new development where the RK Road connects into Xanthia. So interesting. And also, and Andrew, you might know more about this. CPUN put out basically a Google form for you to submit, or for people to submit comments on that development. Do you know if there's going to be a response or where those went?
I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
I hadn't heard that, but I know there is a lot of discussion around it. And admittedly, we're still years out from whenever that does happen. So things might be very different, and as well as, you know, what that design looks like, and, you know, so right now it's a bit of but you know, we know the intentions there. We know something is going to be happening with that site for sure.
Right.
And
well, they shared plans that had a very specific footprint to it in terms of how many buildings and where the parking spaces were and how many units, 5 stories. So it didn't give, at least me, the impression that things were very far away. But I know it's been talked about for a long time. I also know that it's 4 o'clock. So
Thank you.
I did find the info. It's House Bill 1304. I put it in the chat.
I'm glad that we had this recorded, so we'll have all that information and be able to access that. So thank you, Amy, for all of your additions. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Have a good one. Take care.
All for being
Thanks,
with us,
everybody.
and we'll do a summary and we'll share it with you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks.